Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. XRP accumulation continues thanks to uncertainty. At least that's what one person thinks. I might be on board with the concept. Take a look at this headline, though. From CoinDesk, brand spanking new article. More than half of financial advisors want better regulation before investing in crypto. And so I'm going to talk about that. The other thing that I think is going to be a lot of fun to cover in this video is I'm going to pick up on something that I was covering yesterday, which is a Twitter thread between a couple individuals, and then I just I highlighted it because I think back and forth between people on Twitter are fun content for YouTube videos, and I think we can all learn. It's good to hear perspective from people that have dissenting points of view, just in life in general, certainly on the topic of crypto, XRP, and Ripple. And so I covered kind of that in a video yesterday, and both people that were engaged in the conversation listened. One of them not too happy with me. So I'm going to share with you some of the specifics. But before going any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP and you love to engage in critical thinking and like and appreciate diversity of thought, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. We're going to use our brains in this video. So a shout out to Poochie again. Actually, this whole video it comes from content started by Poochie, essentially, both topics here. And so the first one being this CoinDesk piece about financial advisors. And Poochie writes this: "Can't argue with this logic. Hard to go all in without some clarity and regulation." And then DMXRP wrote in response to that on Twitter, "This lack of clarity is giving us a great opportunity to accumulate, though." Yep, I think there's probably truth to that. I think I share that point of view. Shout out to you, Poochie. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you continually tagging me along with others in the XRP community with all sorts of cool stuff here. So let's go ahead and do a quick dive into this. More than half of financial advisors in the U.S. are too spooked by regulatory uncertainty to initiate or expand their cryptocurrency investments, a new study by Bitwise Asset Management found. The annual survey released Tuesday asked 415 advisors a range of questions on their crypto sentiments, including where they think the market is going, how their clients approach crypto, and what it would take for them to invest more in the space. Bitwise found advisors are increasingly bullish on Bitcoin's future, but hesitant to invest in it for their clients or themselves. Bitwise conducted the survey in December. Now, only 6% of respondents currently invest clients' funds in crypto assets, and the holdouts largely plan to continue avoiding crypto in 2020. 55% said they will probably or definitely not invest in crypto this year, while only 7% said they probably or definitely will. So very small quantities of people out there in finance willing to dive in, at least for themselves and, again, for customers here. The survey found a notable slice of fence sitters, too, though. 38% are unsure what they'll do this year, which is significant, said Matt Hugan, Bitwise's global head of research, who conducted the survey. And here's a quote now: "Advisors are intrigued by crypto's proven history of delivering uncorrelated returns or high returns," Hugan said. "However, many continue to balk at investing, largely because of regulatory uncertainty and questions of access." That absolutely legitimate points there. I think in addition to that, it's too scary, and it is, I'd say, high risk, because there is a 10-year track record fine that's a lot less scary than when there was no track record. But still, hasn't been around that long, and people really don't get the space, generally speaking. We don't know where things are going to go. And so I think that as more time passes, more will be willing to jump in. So in the meantime, if you not financial advice here, but I'm saying if you want to purchase more XRP as you continue to earn money and can allocate a certain amount, if you choose to do that, this represents a great opportunity. And I personally am doing that. I regularly buy XRP, only what I'm willing to lose in case this whole thing actually goes south, which I don't think is going to happen. I am Mr. XRP bull, but I continue to invest only what I'm willing to lose in case I'm actually wrong. But as long as I keep seeing real world adoption, to me, I got to be honest, this is the most confident this very second that I have ever been in my XRP investment and ownership. Just my humble opinion. Don't buy or sell because of that, because I'm not a financial advisor, but that's what I firmly believe. Let's jump into the next piece here now. there's a back and forth, and I'm not going to cover the part that I covered yesterday. Feel free to check out my video yesterday if you want an update, but there is a little bit of a back and forth between Poochie, who is a member of the XRP community, and Christopher Bank, who is, let's just call him an XRP and Ripple skeptic. I think that's probably a fair assessment. It seems to be that way from what I've read. And you'll see why I believe that. But there's a little bit of back and forth, and so I covered their back and forth and shared some of my opinions and put the video out. Poochie went ahead and shared the video, and so thank you very much for doing that. I do appreciate that. He put the link in Twitter here, and I want to cover what happened after that. I'm going to start with this, though. Here's one of the tweets that Christopher put out, and he's, again, excuse me, the individual who's not confident in Ripple and XRP. Highly skeptical. And here's what he wrote. He wrote that he's, quote, kind of virtual friends with Poochie. But this pretend expert moon Lambo posting a video with biased, illogical arguments pissed me off. So, okay. First of all I've ever claimed to be is an enthusiastic member of the XRP community. That's it. Beyond that, you can call me whatever you want. I don't care. You can say nice things, you can say bad things. I'm just a member of the XRP community. As far as illogical arguments, I don't think so. And we're going to go through some of the stuff that Christopher had to say in response to what I said yesterday, but I still feel as though he needs to do more research, and I say that respectfully. Now, as far as him getting pissed off by what I had to say, look, you guys know me. I'm a pretty nice dude. I don't attack people. I'm not vicious. I don't use nasty names and getting, fist fights on Twitter or anything like that. I just have a different point of view, but what I've noticed, I'm a 36-year-old man now, and what I've learned along my life journey is that some people, not all people, but some people, when they encounter a dissenting point of view, something that's different than them, something that challenges some aspect of what they believe, when they encounter that, some people will view that as a personal attack, and it appears to me that's what's happened here, which is unfortunate, because I certainly had no intent to offend him. And I certainly, because look, I read through his points of view yesterday and his new ones from today, and I'm not pissed off by anything that he said. To me, it's fun to think through this stuff, and so I have a blast doing this stuff, just engaging in critical thinking. So I wish more people would come at this from that point of view, and that's how I try and approach everything in life, because I think when I was younger, I was probably guilty of doing some of that too, where maybe I was taking things personally when I shouldn't, but the older I get, the more I realize that just doesn't make any sense. Just let people have different points of view, and understand that you don't know everything. I know I don't know everything, and you can learn from people. I'm sure he knows stuff that in life that I don't know, and I could learn something valuable from him, but I still think that he's wrong on his opinions about Ripple and XRP. It's just a gentleman's disagreement, at least that's what it should be, and so I always encourage adult discourse here. And he didn't get nasty or anything, but it's clear that he was offended by me, and of course there's never any intent whatsoever to offend people here. That's just not how I operate. I have no interest in behaving like that. I'd feel like a caveman, like some sort of Neanderthal, if that's how I operated in life. Like, I'm just not one of those people. But I do engage in critical thinking, and I am an opinionated individual, and I'm not afraid to let people know what I do. I say things tactfully, but I'm not afraid to let people know what I think on a host of issues. And of course, this is an XRP-centric channel, so that's what we're talking about here. So let's dive in, though. Take a look at this. Let's go ahead and start here. Now, there could be a little bit of overlap, because the way Twitter works, things branch out into different threads. But let me start here, and again, I apologize if I do have to overlap at all, but I'm going to give my thoughts here. So Christopher Bank wrote this. You are pretending and assuming that article about MoneyGram would use XRP where there is no evidence. As I provided, there are many more and larger banks involved in the JPM coin than with Ripple, so XRP appears to be losing with banks but gaining with Indian villages. Now, that was a reference to JP Morgan coin. There are, I can't remember how many dozens of banks. I really do forget the number, but he provided a link, and I looked at it yesterday. I don't know for sure if all of them are actively using the coin. It really fundamentally doesn't matter for the points that I was making yesterday. Look, I never said that because there's an article yesterday about MoneyGram's deal where they're trying to get more business. They're trying to get more business, and I never said that XRP was being used in there. But my point was that in building out the ecosystem, there will be more opportunities as on-demand liquidity corridors are built out to utilize XRP. But the infrastructure has to be there. It is not today. That's essentially in a nutshell what I said yesterday. So I stand by my point there. Next from Christopher Bank, XRP is more decentralized than Bitcoin. And this Lambo guy rambling on a video is saying, I do not understand fundamental crypto. And I never even brought up Bitcoin, but third parties, not David Schwartz, clearly view Ripple as centralized. Yeah, third parties do, but it's mostly the Bitcoin maxi type. And it depends. I'd like to know how you define centralized, because if you define a concentration of XRP held by Ripple as centralization, then we're using a different definition. And a lot of times when there's disagreements and debate, it's because two people are actually not using the same definition of a word, so we need to get on the same page there. I'm talking about from a technological perspective, Ripple does not have any special permissions over the XRP ledger. Now, Christopher, if you're watching this, have you seen this article written by David Schwartz, who is co-creator of the XRP ledger? It's on August 22nd of 2018, titled The Inherently Decentralized Nature of XRP. I'm not going to get through all the specifics on this. It's outside the scope of what I want to cover in this video, but I encourage you to Google this and check it out. Some of the data here, it's been updated because the XRP ledger is actually even further decentralized than it was in this posting in late 2018. But I want to know, I'd have to know, if you don't think that XRP is more decentralized than Bitcoin, tell me what your definition of centralization is, and then tell me where David Schwartz, creator of the XRP ledger, got any of these facts wrong in this, and then we could just go from there, because I just disagree with you. I just think that you're mistaken on this. All right, next here. Moon Lambo said businesses need to use XRP. That is a huge assumption not based on any fact. There are more banks involved in the JPM coin, so they clearly do not need XRP or Ripple. Okay, so that's a misrepresentation of what I stated, and also a misunderstanding of the ecosystem. So what I was saying yesterday is that businesses, that are utilizing XRP, which gives them a unique position in remittance markets. Those businesses that are using XRP as a bridge currency, and many are today, they absolutely do need that XRP to have that competitive edge today. Now, that's not a I think so type of thing. That's a fact. That absolutely. So you say it's not based on any fact. I'm sorry. Just look up. I made a video today citing a couple dozen entities that are involved in the on-demand liquidity XRP ecosystem. Absolutely, these businesses are relying on XRP to reduce the cost for payments and settlement. RippleNet, of course, the payments portion, formerly known as XCurrent, that's more efficient than Swift, and that, in conjunction with XRP as a bridge currency, absolutely is reducing fees substantially. And if you don't think that's the case, and you don't think that's a fact, I'm sorry, Christopher, but you are mistaken on that. MoneyGram, in fact, they've been raving about how XRP works. They just kind of begrudge the fact that there's not enough liquidity to increase at a further place, because the whole ecosystem is being built out. But again, there is no assumption. If businesses want to continue down this path of being able to just completely cut out the chain of bilateral relationships as it pertains to settlement, cannot be done without XRP. Even if you're talking about JPM coin, there is no interoperability there. It's a walled garden. It just is. So I stand by what I said, and I think that you may have misunderstood me, but at a minimum, you're mistaken there. Then you're right, there are more banks involved in the JPM coin, so they clearly do not need XRP or Ripple. Not true. So what we're seeing here is, and again, I don't know to what degree those banks that were cited are actually actively using this JPM coin, but I will say this. As far as that being an indication that they don't need Ripple or XRP, I should do one of those remind me tweet things on this, because I think if you fast forward a few years out and you see that this little baby ecosystem, see how it's built out a few years from now, it's going to look a lot different. And the reason that more entities are not utilizing XRP is because you have to build that out. You need pools of liquidity, which today are cryptocurrency exchanges. And there are only, I believe, off the top of my head, 5 cryptocurrency exchanges that are partnered up with Ripple as on-demand liquidity partners. And so without more of those and without more regulatory clarity, you can't expand the ecosystem. But yes, Ripple is working on that. If you're talking about a walled garden, you can get a bunch of banks to agree. And if that little walled garden grows to a certain point, and even if it's a little ahead in that sense, fine. They're not doing the same thing. They're not seeking to solve a global problem. They're seeking to have a closed system, and they are not seeking to solve a global settlement problem. They just aren't. I think fundamentally you're missing that point as well. They are not doing the same thing. And then Christopher also writes, Lambo answered by deflecting my question on price by saying XRP is number 3 on market cap. Market cap is not price. Price is down massively. Market cap is not. That is because of coin dilution. So XRP price Can decline, but market cap can be different. Good for Ripple, but not for the for XRP investors. Okay. Well, I don't want to get into debunking this again because I've done this many times before. Actually, I didn't pull up a link for this. It doesn't matter. But if you just pull up the third quarter market report, and this is just one instance where I know it's covered off the top of my head, go to Ripple's third quarter market report 2019, and they cite the metrics that they track in order to determine how much XRP is sold, because they don't want to sell so much XRP that it would, in any sort of measurable way, affect the price of XRP. Now, if you don't believe they're doing that, you don't believe that they're tracking the metric, possibly it's the onus is on you to present evidence, just to state your case, but there is none. As I've seen that. If you can present it, then I will change my mind, and I'd be with you and saying, hey, Ripple, maybe knock that off. But they're not. That is absolutely not what's happening here. You're making an assumption they're selling XRP, therefore price is low. That it's faulty logic. It's just not true. There are not facts to substantiate that position. And then, so again, let me hop back to the top part of this. You wrote, Lambo answered by deflecting my question on price by saying XRP is number 3 on market cap. Okay, I'm not deflecting anything. I thought it was pretty clear yesterday, and I stand by what I said yesterday as well. XRP is number 3 in market cap, and it's been able, my point was that it's maintained the number 3 position, and if it were just XRP that were dropping, it wouldn't maintain that position. My point is not that there's something fundamentally wrong with XRP. I think most of the price action is speculative and not addressing the actual core value of XRP, because value and price is different. The value of XRP is very different than the price of XRP, so I hope that you're distinguishing between the two, but based on this, I'm not confident that you are. But again, value price, very different things right there. So my point was that Bitcoin drives the market, and that all altcoins, including XRP, have dropped. And there's nothing weird about this. All altcoins did, and while the drop occurred for all altcoins, XRP maintained that position as number 3 in market cap. Nothing wacky going on here whatsoever. All right, the next tweet from Christopher Bank. Moon Lambo says that JPM can't get all the banks to use it. Most use Swift, and you can compare banks involved with Ripple and the JPM coin project. I can't find the list on the Ripple site, but there is a list from January 1st. Okay, well, let me be clear here. Yes, so banks, a massive quantity of banks, over 11,000 in the Swift system, using that for messaging. And understand that the settlement takes place separately. It's not that Swift is providing any sort of liquidity or anything like that. Understand that many banks being involved in a messaging system is very different than owning a cryptocurrency. It's different than owning XRP. And then as far as JPM, nobody can own JPM except for the backer of it. And that's the whole thing. And then you just kind of have to trust in the system. But you can't buy JPM coin on an open market on exchanges. So it's really fundamentally different. JPM can't get all the... Again, Moon Lambo says that JPM can't get all the banks to use it. Correct. Because if you think I'm wrong, please explain to me why competing banks would want to help a competing bank adopt their cryptocurrency, their walled garden cryptocurrency. It's fundamentally not happening. Here, let me pull up this, and I'm just going to be brief with this. And I brought this up before on the channel. This is written by Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. The Case Against Bankcoin, August 24th, 2016. Here we go. UBS, Deutsche Bank, Santander, and BNY Mellon announced their utility settlement coin, a new digital asset they hope will become the industry standard for blockchain settlements. They expect banks will initially use the coin for post-trade settlement and clearing by early 2018 after they secure blessing from regulators and central banks. While this development signals significant market traction for an institutional use of digital assets, I have to say it's deeply misguided. Now, Christopher, if you're listening to this, listen up here. Deeply misguided, here's why. A bank-issued digital asset can only really efficiently settle between the banks who issued it. Then, 2 scenarios can play out. Scenario 1. All banks around the world put aside competitive and geopolitical differences, adopt the same digital asset, agree on its rules, and harmoniously govern its usage. Fat chance. Scenario 2, the more likely scenario, banks not in the issuing group issue their own digital assets with their own sets of rules and governments. Ding, ding, ding. Then he writes, we're kind of seeing this already, as the FT points out, with Citi's Citicoin and Goldman Sachs Settlecoin. The result would be an even more fragmented currency landscape than what we have today. If banks of different digital asset groups want to settle trades with one another, they'll have to make markets between their unique digital assets or trade between their digital assets and a common fiat currency. What a mess. fundamentally, that is why. And so I just, if you view the world differently than that, please explain why, because I've considered both, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. And he talked to another tweet about me having a biased opinion. Well, if you want to call it that at that point, fine. But I'll tell you what, when I entered the world of crypto 2 years ago, I was a clean slate, and I was purely looking for facts, and this is where the facts brought me. So call it what you want at this point, but I'm always looking for what is right and true, period. Christopher Bank also wrote this. Here's another tweet. Yes, I do not have an answer to whether XRP is a stable coin or an investment, but it appears to want to be both. If you send USD, you are given fees and know how much is sent. That is why JPM coin is pegged and backed and stable. XRP is not. No, XRP doesn't want anything. Like I said in the other video, it's not sentient. It doesn't have a consciousness. It doesn't want to be both. It can only be one or the other. So I'm not completely sure, to be honest, to what additional point you're trying to make there. Then here it's this. If I buy 1 million United States dollars to send, and it is converted to XRP, and XRP has fluctuated, then I am short. Fractions matter in finance, and banks will care. That is why they need stable coins. If I buy 1 million USD to send and it is converted to XRP and XRP has fluctuated, then I'm sure. No, because you're not taking on the risk. Look, the transaction time for XRP, it's only a few seconds. You're not assuming the risk. The market makers are assuming the risk, and that's part of their business model. And so they can lose money on some transactions, and their business model has to be such that they'll make money on others, because they make money on the buying and selling of XRP. Fundamentally, they don't have to care about the price of XRP. It doesn't matter as long as they're making money on the buying and selling. And up markets, down markets for them shouldn't fundamentally matter. But as far as the exposure time, it's just so short. There's not a lot of opportunity for there to be just massive drops, over that particular time period. But understand the banks on one or another remittance companies engaging in the ecosystem, it doesn't matter for them. They're not the ones that are taking on that risk. And then as a result, the individuals that take on the risk, they take a cut in fees, and that's pretty much it. So no. And then they remove the issue of trust. You don't have to trust a centralized asset from a JP Morgan, for example. And so there you go. And I'm going to have to wrap this up probably, because this video is going to go too long. Maybe I could cover a little bit more of this, but yeah. All right, let me try this one here. Here it says, LOL, Moon Lambo says that XRP went down with Bitcoin, but the crypto lows were a year earlier. Yes, alts followed. Bitcoin is up well over 200% from that low. ETH is up as well. But in December 2019, a year after the general crypto lows, and 4 weeks ago, XRP was minting new lower lows. No answer. No, I do have an answer, and I think I pretty well covered this, but I can take another bat at this. There are cycles historically going back for better half of a decade, over half of a decade rather. And there are cycles of altcoin dominance where it increases versus Bitcoin dominance. And we saw a lot of that. There was a huge altcoin dominance in 2017, especially late in the year, early 2018 also. And we're seeing that now. So if history repeats, and there's no guarantee it will, then altcoin dominance should increase. And then, I can state to you when that happens. If I had to guess it will, I don't make price predictions, and I'm not a chart analyst, so it's just a for fun type of guess. But I suspect it will. So Bitcoin, in the meantime, look, markets are cyclical. Bitcoin went up. As far as Ethereum going up, you're talking over a very short time period. Understand that in the last 24 hours, XRP is up over 10%. So it depends on what time frame you're actually looking at here as to whether or not XRP appears to have performed well. As Hammertoe, who pointed out, I wish I had time to cover his comments, but this video is going to be too long if I do that. He's a member of the XRP community, and he cited it depends on the time frame you're looking at. If you look over the last 3 years, XRP outperformed Bitcoin. If you look at prior to that, if you just want to take a look at Bitcoin and you say, okay, but XRP hasn't recovered, well, what about in 2015 when Bitcoin was like 93% down? Was it then a bad investment because it was down? Well, we know that it rallied from under $1,000 to almost $20,000. So XRP now go from $4 down to 22, 23 cents as I record this. Because there's a low price, does that mean it's a bad investment? Well, I'm not offering financial advice, period. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm just saying, I want to ask, is that the position that you hold on Bitcoin price action as of 2015? Because to me, it just doesn't make any sense. But I'm probably going to have to wrap it up there. It's just going to go to... I'm sorry. I apologize if this video was longer than it should have been anyway. But anyway, to me, it's fun to think through this stuff. So I like hearing opinions that are different than my own. To me, it's engaging. It's a lot of fun. And that's, when I cover stuff like this, that's That's the reason I do it. It's a lot of fun. I think people enjoy thinking through it themselves too. I think that's why these types of videos for me tend to do pretty well. I'm not the only one that likes to engage in critical thinking. That's quite clear. So I just want to get to the truth of the matter, just like the vast majority of people listening to. It's not about talking points or this and that. If I didn't believe what I was stating here, I just wouldn't buy XRP, and then I'd probably stop running this YouTube channel. But things from my perspective, things are looking great. But I'll cut it off there. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.